Yeah, I'm just going to say thank you for joining me on this chat. I'm really excited to hear about your experiences and what it is that you do. So would you just maybe want to start and tell me a little bit about your business and the type of services that you offer?
Sure. I'm a visibility advisor for introverts, so I help introverts create an online presence that works their way. So, a lot of times a lot of introverts try and do something the extroverted way, so they try and be present on every Facebook page they can, every Facebook group they can, and they just end up getting burnt out. So what I do is I help them, show up as a leader their way, and figure out the strategy that works for them.
Okay. And I assume that you identify as an introvert.
I do.
So what led you to move into this path for your business?
Well, it started on Twitter, actually, because I am a big social media fan. So I was helping my parents run their yarn store. I was doing the social media side, the marketing side. And that business ended, but I continued using social media. And I was on Twitter just talking with people, and 2 people within the span of a week complained about how they felt broken and weird. And it was clear to me that they weren't actually broken, that they were normal for introverts. They were just comparing themselves to extroverts.
Yeah.
So, I decided that something had to have been done. I sent them both links to Susan Cain's TED Talk. I don't know if you've listened to that or not.
No.
But it's great. She was kind of like the person who spearheaded this whole introvert positive thing. Because before it was lots of people thought that introversion was shy. Yeah. There was something to be ashamed of. And so she wrote a New York Times bestseller book called Quiet. And so she had this big TED Talk. So I sent them both links to the TED Talk, and they're both really, really relieved that there wasn't anything wrong with them. They were just an introvert, and they just needed this time to recharge. Mm-hmm. So after that happened, I was like, okay, well, I guess more people need to be told that there's nothing wrong with them. They're just an introvert. And we're actually 50% of the population too, so we're not even a super minority. We're possibly even a majority. It's just that we're not as loud as extroverts. So that happened, and then so I decided to start a Twitter account and a Facebook page just for fun, just to post about introversion, what I've learned about introversion, because I had been studying it for a few years, just on my own for myself. So that started, just as a hobby for a year or so, and then I became a life coach, and I started life coaching introverts. Found out that even though I was good at it, it was pretty draining. So yeah, exactly. So then I decided to do visibility coaching, because that was some of my favorite clients were entrepreneurs. Because they're, gung-ho, they're super excited to be working on their mindset, because that was, because they actually had financial incentives to do that. So that's how I became a visibility advisor.
And how long ago was that? How long has this been going on for?
The visibility advising, not long, about 6 months maybe.
Okay. And is this your page that you've grown to 10,000?
Yeah. So the introvertology was the one I began with, 3 years ago or whatever, as a hobby. So I've just been using that platform to go from life coaching to visibility advising now.
Okay. Well, you've obviously hit a nerve. You found the community. We're obviously all out there waiting for someone to help us like this.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think it's only in about the last year or so that I've kind of come across this idea of introversion being linked to energy rather than it being shy,
Right.
And it was just this complete sort of light bulb moment for me, and I was able to sort of think back to social occasions, or just there's all sorts of examples in my life that popped up where I would, for example, I'd go somewhere full of enthusiasm and energy, and then within half an hour I'd just be like, oh, I'm so tired, I've got nothing to say. And I thought it was a reflection on I don't know, my personality, or, you know, I was boring or something. And, you know, this idea that it's just energy and I need to go off, recharge, and then come back again was like, wow, yes, that makes sense. So, I mean, you've mentioned the TED Talk. Do you have any other resources you recommend to people who might want to look more into this?
Yeah, well, there's also Susan Cain's book, Quiet. That's also really excellent. There's many other different books out there. There's Introvert's Way by Sophia Dembling. That's a very manageable. She has it's basically like a series of blog posts. So you can just pick it up, start reading it, put it down. I was recently featured on the Introvert Entrepreneur podcast. So people might want to look into that if they're, entrepreneur and they're an introvert. And she's interviewed so many different people, like Tony, I don't remember how to pronounce his last name, but the CEO of Zappos was interviewed with her. So she's interviewed, so many different entrepreneurs, and she asked them about how they manage their energy and things like that. So that's another great resource that I recommend. The person who does Introvert Entrepreneur, she also has a book out that people might want to look up. It's called Introvert Entrepreneur, so remember. Let's see. Oh, the one that got me started with it is The Introvert Advantage by Marty Olson-Laney. And so she goes kind of into the way our brains are wired a little differently from extroverts.
That's interesting. I haven't gone into it that far. That is actually is it brain chemistry, or what's the
so they're still kind of looking it up. It's not, personality is hard to kind of dissect and understand because it's so ingrained into most people's actions that it's hard to really define and find out what part of our actions are our personality versus our environment and things like that. But yeah, they think that we have more gray matter in our heads, that we deal better with written word versus verbal. There's been quite a bit of research, and it's out there, but they're still doing some experiments. So I think it's important whenever you're reading anything about the actual science of introversion and extroversion to remember that it's not set in stone.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. But it's still interesting, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So you were saying that the different ways of using social media. How do you think sort of introverted people use social media in a way that is different to extroverts? That causes these people that you met to feel like they're broken, or that they're not doing it right. That they're struggling. I struggle a bit with social media. So yeah, any insights around that would be really welcome.
So let's see, most of the introverts I work with, it's part mindset, part, strategy. So the strategy part is often just getting, systems in place, like a spreadsheet that I sometimes give to people that is just, okay, here's the groups that you're going to be checking in once a day. Here's the, keywords or whatever you're going to be looking up. So actually just breaking things down so you're not just spending all day on Facebook kind of just scrolling, because it's not going to be helpful.
No,
so
it's like a wormhole, isn't it? And you're like, oh my God, now it's gone, and what am I even reading?
Exactly. Yeah, so it's the rabbit hole of social media. So going there with a plan is something I really suggest. If you put aside time, an hour or just on Facebook groups, half an hour on Twitter, or wherever your main focus is, then I would really suggest sticking to your plan, creating a plan, sticking to a plan, and not getting sidetracked by just viewing it as a simply social place. And have an actual goal is my main suggestion.
And do you think extrovert personalities just do better because they like the chatting and they're able to just sort of engage with people in a more spontaneous sort of, level?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it depends on the extroverts. Extroverts gain energy by talking a lot. So sometimes, social media doesn't actually work for them. But it depends how they work social media too. Because if they do social media in terms of actually connecting with people and in terms of a jumping off point for an actual, voice connection, that often works for them. But they can also, it is good to remember that they don't necessarily thrive on social media either, that we're all trying to figure our way around it and see what works for us.
Yeah, it can be a bit of a weird space sometimes. But saying that, I do, you know, I said I struggle, and I think I struggle with the strategy and kind of, you know, sticking to a plan.
Yeah.
But, you know, I do enjoy it, and I've, you know, met loads of people, and it does work. It works from a social point of view, and it definitely works from a business point of view. But yeah, getting that strategy in place is a really good idea. So I just wanted to ask if you have always worked for yourself. So you're self-employed now, you're an entrepreneur yourself. Were there any jobs that you've had in your past that you feel that the environment was out of sync with your personality, that kind of made it hard to do your job? And is it part of the reason that maybe pushed you in this direction to, you know, work from home?
Yeah. I've had a number of jobs in the past. For a while, I was actually living in England, and I was working at the head office of a bank, and it was an open floor plan, so it was like just noisy constantly. So that was not good for my introversion at all.
Yeah.
Because there's just too much going on, too many distractions. Coworkers would just, like, you know, talk to me when I was in the middle of something important. So it's not the place for me at all. So yeah,
I've worked in a similar environment, also in a bank in London. And yeah, it was an open plan office, and I think I just came across as a bit weird, mostly because everyone really liked just talking and chatting, and I was like, you know, I'm trying to concentrate, and, you know, I'll come up, I'll surface, and, you know, I'll do that, but can you not talk to me right now? I'm busy.
Exactly.
I was very good at just keeping my head down, which I think comes across as being aloof, but
yeah,
it
does. So if you're in that situation, it kind of just makes sense to actually, like, take some time off to, you know, actually talk to your coworkers for a bit, so that they know it's just your personality and it's not personal. You know, it's just like, that's how you work best.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've been working from home now for about 4 years. I love it. I do. I love it. You know, and I've got friends, some of my best friends are massive extroverts who cannot fathom the idea of spending the day without other people. They're just like, I don't know how you do it. And I'm like, I love it.
Me too. Yeah. All the peace and quiet I need.
Exactly. And then, yeah, I can still go. I mean, it's not about not being sociable, but it's sort of doing it on my terms.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, what type of things do you like to do to recharge? Because, you know, recharging our energy is a really key, you know, part of nurturing ourselves. So yeah, what kind of things do you like to do? I like reading books, for example. I used to on my iPhone a lot now.
Well, when I'm actually not just scrolling through Facebook, which I unfortunately do end up doing on my time off anyway.
Yeah.
I do read a lot of books. Nonfiction is kind of my favorite. But I also read some science fiction. I've been into science fiction since I was a teenager.
Yeah, I like science fiction. I haven't read anything for a long time, but yeah.
You know,
good science fiction is amazing.
It is, yeah. I like how it can make you kind of step back from, like, your current society in order to see, like, the big picture. So I kind of like that about science fiction, because I'm a big picture person.
Yeah.
I just checked out P.G. Wodehouse books from the library. So, I'm looking forward to that because his books are fun. Let's see, I used to knit a lot. I don't really knit that much anymore.
I used to knit as well. I went through a massive phase in my 20s of knitting and crocheting. And it was when I was living in London, and I'd on tube journeys just sit knitting. And I find it really kind of a bit like meditative, you know, something you can do without having to sort of think about what you're doing. But you're kind of occupied, and then you're sort of, you know, thinking.
Definitely.
Stuff. And you get something at the end of it as well, so it's
exactly totally. And so actually I've joined a few knitting circles over the years. I don't go much anymore just because I'm focused on my work, but It's a good way for people to actually meet someone. If you're an introvert, meet some friends, just because you're all there working on kind of the same thing. You have a similar hobby, but then it's also meditative. And whenever you want to stop talking, you just focus on your knitting.
Yeah, yeah.
So I found that to be like a good introvert way to meet people. But I don't knit very much anymore, except when there's like, a friend's having a baby or something like that. Then I quickly try and make like a baby hat or something. But
Yeah, I haven't done it for years. I think I bought some needles and some wool a few years ago, and I didn't, did something about that big. Maybe I'll come back to it when I'm older. I don't know.
Well, it's the cycles things, right?
Yeah.
Cycles, interests go in cycles. But yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not that big into it anymore either, but sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, so you do coaching now with business owners. What kind of things do you do to help? So I assume your clients are introverts. So what kind of things do you do to help push them through any blocks that they've got?
Mainly, well, I have the background in life coaching, so it's a lot of just actually diving deep in the coaching session to find out what the actual blocks are, because most people don't actually like consciously know. They just think they're struggling because they don't have the right strategy, or they don't know their ideal clients or something like that. But often there's some background concept like introverts can't be leaders. That's something that comes up a few times. So, we reframe it as introverts can be leaders, and there's so many different like introvert leaders in the past, like Mahatma Gandhi, Abraham Lincoln was supposedly an introvert. And currently there's like Elon Musk, Richard Branson, have both said they're introverts. So we kind of just reframe the idea that introverts can't be leaders as introverts totally can be. You just have to find the way that works for you.
Leadership is about listening, good leadership, isn't it? Rather than kind of shouting at everyone.
Yeah.
So I can see how, a good sort of quiet listening approach would definitely make a great leader.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, kind of the vision combined with just being able to bring in different ideas from other people, and like you said, listening, are good for introvert leadership. So yeah, definitely just finding a way that introvert leadership works for you versus trying to peg yourself into this little hole that you think running a business should look like.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I was having a look on your Facebook page, and you seem to use a lot of video. How do you find that? Do you find it sort of draining, or have you got a sort of approach to using video that works for you?
I still find it a little draining. I mean, mainly I'm focusing on video because Facebook is where my concentration is, and video is really big on Facebook. Facebook algorithm loves videos, so that's what I'm focusing on. And also I like to kind of push myself, so I'm not that comfortable on video, so that's why I keep doing videos. Not something I necessarily suggest to everybody else. I normally suggest people work with their strengths, but I'm not. That's not me. Yeah.
So you keep them short, right? You do, like, you've got your sort of 2-minute.
Yes. Yes.
What do you call it? You've got a little phrase, I think.
2-minute Tuesdays.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just started that, and I think that works wonderfully for me, both because I don't have to do this really draining like 20-minute video or whatever that's just going to take forever. I can do something in a bite-sized little chunk. So that's really working out well for me. In terms of Facebook Live, I've gotten better at them, a lot better. And so if anyone who's watching this wants to get used to Facebook Lives, what I would totally suggest is that you just start doing them. And as often as you can do them, it's better to just do them as frequently as you can. They do get easier. But what I actually do is I cover up the viewership numbers whenever I'm on Facebook Live, because that way it doesn't feel like I'm talking to a big group. I just pretend like I'm talking to one person.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm trying to make it work for me.
Yeah, that's a good tip. That's a good approach. I've been sort of experimenting with it a bit myself, and I actually quite like it, to my own surprise.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think, because I can talk if I'm in the right mood, and everything's sort of on my own terms, and I'm only going to do it when I'm feeling like I want to do it. So yeah, I have been enjoying. I'm not doing it as regularly as I should, obviously. Never get never do things 100% correctly all the time, but yeah, no, I'm enjoying Facebook Live and doing some videos.
Cool. Yeah, so you found something that works for you then.
Yeah, because I really like writing, but I'm increasingly finding writing blog posts is just so time consuming, and I'm still doing them, but as a kind of like things like tips, like what you're doing, because I do web design and graphic design. A lot of what I'm showing and teaching is, it's online, it's like physically actually showing people how to do it. So it makes more sense for me to create videos around that.
Yeah.
And then kind of talk around that as well. And that's kind of how I'm going to approach it. And then also I can get videos transcribed. So then I, repurpose it that way. So
Totally.
it's kind of the direction I'm moving in. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if people are watching this wondering like what kind of medium they should work on for, their main content, what you've just described right now is not necessarily like, although you're good at writing, it takes you a long time to do it, right? So you have to mix both what your audience would like to see and what you can do easily, right?
Yeah.
So like my 2-minute Tuesday, that's pretty easy. That's just 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, I'm done.
I would not suggest, fighting with yourself and just trying to do something because everybody else is doing it. So if videos actually do not work for you, then don't do them. Do writing or whatever is actually easier.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty is there's all those different mediums out there. So, we can all chop and choose whatever works for us.
Totally, yeah.
Okay, so this is pretty much my last question, actually. So, short and sweet. I noticed that you've got a course to help introverts with their Facebook pages. So can you just tell me a bit more about how that course works? Is it sort of a self-taught online course, or is it got...
Yeah, so it's a self-taught, it's a series of videos and PDFs and worksheets. So basically I start people off with just what is Facebook, why should you be on Facebook? So essentially Facebook is all about connection. So that's where we kind of start off with understanding why Facebook works for some different kinds of not platforms, but how to build a Facebook page so that you're actually getting engagement. And that is to understand that Facebook is about connection, like Facebook is about connecting with your families and friends. So that's why hashtags doesn't work well on Facebook, because, if you're seeing a business type post in between family and friends posts, that can get a little, not shocking, but it can kind of seem strange. So it's really important to remember that Facebook is for connecting. That's how you should build your posts, is in terms of how am I connecting with my clients right here. So we start off with kind of like the general idea of what is Facebook and what kind of products work best on Facebook and what kind of posts. And then I have a sheet about how to make Canva images. I go into like specifics like that. And then I show people how to actually make a page if they don't have a page yet. And then I finish off with some mindset issues that typically come up with posting on Facebook, like what we talked about, can introverts be leaders? Imposter syndrome comes up a lot with my clients. So I have a little video about that. And generally it's just kind of like helping people, and the analytics too. Analytics is so important when you have a Facebook page. Looking at analytics and seeing what works and what doesn't, so you can actually understand what your audience wants to see.
And things like the times to post and what the type of post that's getting more engagement, that kind of thing. I'm terrible at that. I sort of poke my head into the analytics every now and then, and I'm like, I don't know.
So yeah, it'll tell you, if they like videos or links or images, you can see what your most popular posts are, what they share the most. So maybe they prefer humor, maybe they prefer information, maybe they prefer personal posts from you. You can kind of just see a general trend when you look on the analytics.
Okay, it sounds like a really good course.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, well, I think we can wind it up now. So thank you so much for taking the time to have this chat. Do you just want to let me know or let us know what's the best place for people to connect with you online? Obviously Facebook, so your Facebook page and anywhere else that you like to hang out?
Sure. So I have my Facebook page, which is Introvertology. I have a Facebook group for entrepreneurs, which is called Trail Making Introverts. And you can find me on my website at introvertology.com.
Brilliant. Okay, and I'll make sure those links are, around as well.
Thank you.
All right, thanks so much.
Well, thank you for interviewing me, Kathy. It was nice getting to know you.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you.